A very good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, Dr. Anisha, for such a warm welcome, and thank you, YPF team, and Dr. Soumya and Dr. Tripti for giving me this opportunity to present. I would also like to thank the chairpersons, Dr. Tulika Chandra and Dr. Shashank Ojha, for chairing this session. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you for finding time from your busy schedule. And now I would like to proceed with the presentation. So tubeless cross-match and beyond was a topic given to me. The topic will be covered under the following headings. I will briefly tell what are the various test and pre-transfusion testing. Then I will go to brief introduction of cross-match testing, various platforms for cross-match testing, and then I will explain in detail the tubeless methods of cross-match. I will compare their steps and characteristics. And finally, I will talk about which method to choose. And the beyond the future of the cross-match is computer cross-match. So I will share a few slides on that. And finally, I will conclude the presentation with limitations of cross-match testing. So pre-transfusion testing mainly includes 4 tests, and these are ABO grouping, RH typing, antibody screen, and cross-match or compatibility testing. Cross-match or compatibility testing by definition just means cross-way mixing of donor and recipient blood components. And usually it is a major cross-match, donor red cells and patient serum and plasma. According to ABB standards, it is a technique that shall use methods that demonstrates 2 things. First is ABO incompatibility, and second, the technique should demonstrate or detect clinically significant antibodies to red cell antigen, and it shall include an antiglobulin test. Now, there is an exception to this rule. If there is no evidence of clinically significant antibodies in the current sample and also in the past records, then an immediate spin cross-match is acceptable only to detect ABO incompatibility. And this can be used in terms of emergency where the patient is bleeding and we can issue a unit based on immediate spin cross-match. But at the same time, we should also do an antiglobulin cross-match and it should go. But the unit can be issued. So but the exception is it is only valid if if the antibody screen is negative or in the past records there is no evidence of antibody. So the purpose of cross-match testing is actually mainly 2. It's mainly to prevent transfusion reaction, and second, to maximize the survival of transfused red cells in vivo. Also, cross-match serves 2 goals. One, it detects any ABO errors due to patient misidentification or donor unit mislabeling, and also it acts as a second method to detect antibody. The cross-match procedures are mainly divided into 2. It can be a serological cross-match and a computer cross-match. Serological cross-match is further, it could be an immediate spin and an antiglobulin cross-match. The platforms for cross-match testing are broadly classified into 2. One is the test tube method and other is tubeless methods. Among the tubeless methods, I have stated one is the heme agglutination assay, then column agglutination technology, solid phase red cell adherence assay, and finally the affinity column technology. Now I'll be explaining each assay in detail. So heme agglutination assay, it uses a microtiter plate as shown in the figure. It works on the principle of tube agglutination only. Every well in the microtiter plate acts as a mini tube, and these wells can be either U or V shaped, and we just add patient serum or plasma and donor red cells, and the plate is centrifuged, and then the cell button is resuspended manually or via mechanical shaker. If there is if there is an antibody in the patient's plasma, it will bind to red cells. Then it will get a red cell button in the center of the well, which will be a positive reaction, and a negative reaction will be a smooth suspension of red cells or a streaming pattern of red cells when the plate is placed at an angle. This reactions can also be read using an automated photometric device, and therefore this technology can be automated. It is to inform that these heme agglutination assay can only be used for an immediate spin cross match, and also it can be used for antigen screening or an ABO and RH phenotype. If automation technology on using heme agglutination assay is merged with hospital information system, then it will provide records of patients' previous antibody screen and ABO and RH, and therefore it can be converted into a computer cross match as well. With this, I go to the next technology, which is the column agglutination technology. It was invented by Dr. Lapierre in 1988 and distributed by Diamond. This technology basically works on the principle of size exclusion of agglutinated red cells in an inert matrix. So this is a column, a microcolumn or a miniature sized test tube, which is placed on a plastic card. It has an upper reaction chamber and it has a lower column. Between the upper reaction chamber is mainly to add the serum or plasma of the patient and donor red cells. And the lower column has the gel and the reagents. The gel is usually a dextran acrylamide gel particles, and in case of ortho, it is glass particles. The reagent case of crossmatch will be anti-human globulin reagent, which is encoded in the gel. Now, once there is also, I would like to tell that there is an air bubble between the upper reaction chamber and the lower column, which prevents the entry of serum or plasma and red cells directly into the gel. So once we add patient's plasma and donor red cells into the upper reaction chamber, it is incubated at 37 degrees Celsius for 10 to 15 minutes based on the card we use. And then after centrifugation, if the antigen antibody reaction takes place during the incubation, then during the centrifugation, this antigen antibody mixture will actually cross the gel, will cross the air bubble and enter into the gel. As soon as in the gel it enters, the gel is coated with anti-human globulin, and that anti-human globulin will actually do the cross-linking of the antibodies which are present on red cells, and agglutinins will be formed. Now, the strength of the reaction is actually based on the principle of molecular sieving, which simply means the distance traveled by the red cell agglutinates will determine the strength of the reaction. Suppose in the next figure, if you can see on the right, once the antigen antibody reaction comes on, the AAG will cross-link. And if the antigen antibody reaction is very strong, then they will be stuck on the top of the gel itself, and that will produce a very strong 4+ reaction. If they are in the upper half of the column, then it will be a 3+, if most of the agglutinates are in the upper half. If they are spread throughout the column, it will be a 2+ reaction. And if they are restricted to lower half of the column, it will be a 1+ reaction. And if there is no antibody in the patient's plasma towards the donor red cells, then all the red cells will directly settle down and reach the bottom of the tube, microcolumn. Also, we can get a mixed field reaction here in which some cells will be down here and some cells on the top of the gel. So these are a comparison table between the 3 gel cards which are used commonly: Diamyd, Ortho, and Grifols DigiGel. So Grifols DigiGel actually has 8 microcolumns in its card, while the rest do have 6. Ortho uses glass microbeads, whereas Diamyd and Grifols uses Cephadex. The sample volume required in Ortho is 40 microliter of patient's plasma, while Diamyd and Grifols need 25. The incubation time again in Ortho is shorter, 10 minutes, while it is 15 minutes in the other two. Also, the centrifugation time in Ortho is 5 minutes, and it has a biphasic centrifugation speed. That means for the first 2 minutes, the centrifugation will take place around to 800 RPM, and in the next 3 minutes, it will increase to 1500 RPM. Whereas in Diamyd, the centrifugation time is for 10 minutes, around 900 RPM, and in Grifols, it is around 9 minutes again. As the cell suspension, in terms of cell suspension, Diamyd and Grifols both use less suspended cells, and they need 0.8%. And in Ortho card, we need to add less, so a 2 to 3% suspension is used. So this is in brief column agglutination technology, and this is a slide which has compared, in which I have put a table from one of the articles in which concordance rate between the 3 column cards has been showed for antibody identification. This is just, if you look at the recent article from Blom et al., there was actually 100%, they found 100% concordance rate for antibody detection between Bio-Rad and Grifols. And for Ortho versus Grifols, it was around 86%. And for Bio-Rad versus OCT, it was 90%. And overall, between all the 3, it was again 90%. Moving on to the next tubeless method, this is a solid phase red cell adherence assay. Now, this assay actually uses a solid phase in the form of a microtiter plate, which have wells again. But these wells are coated with antigens or donor red cells in case of a cross match. So donor red cells are actually coated on the well, followed by addition of LIS, which is purple in color. And then we add the patient's plasma. As soon as we add the patient's plasma, the LIS will change color from purple to blue. And this itself acts as a quality control, because once this will ensure that the user has added the plasma once that blue color develops. Thereafter, we incubate the mixture and then at 37 degrees Celsius and wash it. If antibodies are present in patient's plasma against the donor red cells, then they will bind to the donor red cells. And then finally, we add the indicator red cells. Now, these indicator red cells I have shown in this figure, these are actually red cells which are coated with antibodies against the human IgG. So these are actually anti-IgG antibodies. They're attached to the red cells through the Fc receptors, so their Fab portion is free. And if the donor red cells which are there on the in the wells have the patient's plasma antibody bound to them, then these indicator red cells with the anti-IgG can bind to the Fc portion of this antibody, and therefore a monolayer will be formed. And this is how a monolayer will look, which will be a 4+ reaction and a very strong reaction. However, if there is no antibody in the patient's plasma, that means there is no antibody, therefore the anti-IgG on the indicator red cells will not bind to it, and therefore all the red cells will settle during the centrifugation step at the bottom of the well, and it will be a negative reaction. This is to inform that in the interpretation of SPRC and heme agglutination assay is completely opposite. A 4+ on heme red cell button in the center of the well in heme agglutination is a 4+ reaction, whereas here it is a completely negative reaction because a monolayer has indicates a 4+ reaction here. So with this, SPRC can be used actually for most of the cross-match, most of the methods which require AAG, and it can be used for antibody screen, identification, direct antiglobulin test, weak D testing, and IgG cross-match. Commercially, SPRC is manufactured by Immucor, and there are both automated and manual platform. We have the Capture Workstation also. It is also known as Capture Technology, and therefore the Capture Workstation. And automation, there are Galileo, Galileo Eco, and Neo. Now coming on to one more solid phase assay, which is known as Solid Screen 2. Now this assay actually does antiglobulin testing based on the principle of affinity chromatography. In this assay, the wells are coated with protein A. Now, protein A is derived from Staphylococcus aureus, and it has a very high affinity for the Fc portion of most of the immunoglobulins. So, in these wells, which are coated with protein A, we add LIS, patient's plasma, and donor's red cells. These are incubated at 37 degrees Celsius again, and after washing, if antibodies are present against the donor red cells, they will bind to it. And then we add the AAG reagent. Now the AAG reagent again will cross-link the bound antibodies on donor red cells which are present in patient's plasma, and it will have its Fc portion free. So during the centrifugation, the Fc portion of the IgG AAG, that means the IgG type of AAG reagent, will bind to the protein A and again form a monolayer if it's a positive. There is antibody in the patient's plasma. However, if there are no antibodies in the patient's plasma, no monolayer will be formed and it will be a negative reaction. This solid screen 2 assay is from BioRad Laboratories, and it is also available on a fully automated platform known as Tango Optimo system. With this, I'll go to the next assay, which is the affinity column technology. Now, this is similar to what we have seen in the last slide. But here the protein, this again works on the principle of affinity adherence of RBCs to an matrix, immunologically active matrix. These are again columns, microcolumns, but the gel here is coated with ligands, protein A and protein G. Protein A, I've already told, is derived from Staph aureus, and protein G is from Streptococcus. Now, both of these proteins will actually bind Fc receptors. But protein A is a very, very dense protein, and protein G is less dense. So what in this technology, throughout the gel, they have actually loaded the gel with protein G in the upper half and the bottom half protein A. And this is the only technology which does not use EHG reagent to do EHG reagent. It does not use at all. So in the gel, upper half there is protein G and the lower half there is protein A. The principle is once we add the patient's plasma and donor red cells, there is a viscous barrier which will prevent their entry directly into the gel. So incubation will take place at 37 degrees, and if the antibodies are present, they will bind again to donor cells. Now, when this column is centrifuged, the the antigen antibody mixture will penetrate through the viscous barrier and enter the gel. Now, if the antigen antibody reaction is very strong, then the antibodies which have bound to the donor red cell, their FC portion will be free and they will bind to protein G on the top of the gel itself and produce a very strong ring or agglutinates, and that will be a 4+ reaction. However, if the antigen antibody reaction is not that weak, then they will migrate down a little bit further, but at the interface of protein G and protein a distinct agglutinate will be seen or a ring will be seen, and that will be a weaker reaction. And if there is no antibody in the patient's plasma, the entire red cells will again pellet down and it will be a negative reaction. So this is in brief the various technologies. I will now compare the procedure steps. So solid phase, which uses selected cells, in selected cells means in this case we'll use donor cells to coat the wells, and gel and affinity. So addition of RBC is required in all the methods. Centrifugation is to form a monolayer is only for solid phase. Washing step is again only required in solid phase but not in gel and affinity column. Plasma addition is required. Incubation is required in all the steps, and indicator cells are only required in solid phase. If we look at the characteristic comparison of all these three technologies, I have not included the heme agglutination assay because it can be only used for immediate spin cross match, and I'm mainly focusing on AHG cross match here. And once we compare these three solid phase, gel test, affinity column with tube testing, these are some characteristics I have tabulated. So when we come to the broad range of tests in serology, all the tests, ABO grouping, forward and reverse grouping, RS typing, screening, cross match, all can be done on tube, all can be done on solid phase, and all can be done on gel. On affinity column, we cannot do forward and reverse grouping as well as RS typing. Now, going to the further details, washing step. In tube testing, we require multiple washing steps when we are going for AHG cross match, while in solid phase only one, while no washing is again required in gel and affinity column. A barrier is present in gel and a viscous barrier is present in affinity column. Centrifugation is critical in all the methods. IgM and IgG can be detected in all methods, gel, affinity, and tube, but in solid, we can only detect IgG antibodies. The incubation time for AHG cross match is maximum in tube testing. It can range from 45 to 60 minutes. And the minimum number of tests which we can run in tube testing, it will be only one at a time. Whereas in solid and affinity, we can do 8 at a time, and in gel, we can do 6 at a time. And it is well known that all these tubeless methods have a higher sensitivity as compared to conventional tube testing. Stability of the reaction is much more in all these methods, while in tube testing, we need to read the reaction immediately and the reaction don't remain stable for much longer. Now, in terms of quantification of reaction, tube is quantitative, and it also tells about the mixed field reaction, and similarly gel is also tells quantitates the reaction and mixed field can be detected. However, for solid phase, it's a semi-quantitative assay and we cannot find out whether there is a mixed field reaction or not. For affinity column, again, it's a semi-quantitative, it's not quantitative, and mixed field can be found out on this, can be detected. In terms of quality control, in solid phase, I have already discussed that when this changes its color, that itself is an inbuilt control, and all the manufacturers now provide positive and negative controls with the kit in the solid phase SPRCA. For gel, lot number of cards and diluents should be checked on the day of use, and we should include appropriate positive and negative controls. For affinity column, as these columns are coated with protein G, So in case of a negative result, we should actually use IgG coated cells or known as DCT positive control to check whether the protein G is active or not. And that could be a QC for affinity column. And for tube testing, we need to include appropriate positive negative control as per the test. All the tubeless methods have improved safety as compared to tube testing because they first of all remove any glassware. Therefore, broken glassware is already gone, that and it is only there. That is a disadvantage in tube testing. Also, because we are using less amount of reagents in all these methods as compared to tube testing. Now, one of the disadvantages, we need special equipment in all these methods. Solid phase requires a microplate reader and incubator. Gel test requires special pipettes and centrifuges. Affinity column again requires special pipettes and centrifuges, but not tube testing. Tube testing just requires a plain laboratory centrifuge and glass test tubes. Now, automation is available in all these three technologies, but not for tube testing. So this is comparison of various characteristics. Finally, which cross match to choose? So the gold standard is test tube. I would any day say that it is a gold standard. It is cheap. It is best in emergency setting. If a patient is bleeding, you can immediately do immediate spin cross match. It doesn't require any special equipment, but it is prone to human error. And I also believe that along with test tube, most of the centers should have one or two tubeless methods of cross match testing, and it could be either a column agglutination technology or SPRCA. They offer higher sensitivity, higher throughput, but they are expensive. And the workload, the workload also decreases once you are shifting to these tubeless methods. And whether to decide among these tubeless methods, whether we should go for semi-automated versus fully automated, this can only be decided by the user department based on the workload. If the workload is small initially, then a semi-automated method will do. Although a semi-automated method, a lot of manual work will be required, and that is prone to human error. But again, the workload is small, you should go for semi-automated. But as soon as if there is high workload, there should be it will be better if a fully automated system can be adopted, as it will definitely eliminate human error and give good results. So the future, I believe, belongs to computer cross-match, and computer cross-match actually uses a computer to make a final check of ABO compatibility in the selection of appropriate units of transfusion. So there are mainly two prerequisites for computer cross-match. The first being the recipient should not possess any clinically significant antibodies either in the current sample or any sample previously collected. And the second is the computer program should have inbuilt flag system which indicates the recipient's eligibility or ineligibility for a cross-match, for a computer cross-match. The requirement of to set up a computer cross-match in any lab or transfusion medicine department will be that it should have a computer system which is validated on site to detect ABO incompatibilities, and incompatible products should not be released. The computer system should be validated properly in this respect. Also, the ABO phenotype has to be determined on the present sample which is collected at the time of cross-match. And the second ABO phenotyping can either be a retype of the current sample, or a second sample can be collected at a later time, or a comparison of the previous records can also be done for second ABO typing confirmation. It will be the decision of the individual facility to determine whether the ABO phenotyping is performed by two technologists or whether they need to collect two samples at different times. So it is also required that the computer system should have information both of the donor unit and the recipient. The donor unit information should contain everything: product name, ABO and RS group, unique number, interpretation of the ABO confirmation test. And the recipient information should be everything, again, antibody screening results, ABO and RH phenotyping, and compatibility results. Also, there should be logic in the computer software to alert the user if there is any ABO incompatibility between the donor unit and the recipient. Also, there should be, now when we are entering results on a computer crossmatch on a computer, keystrokes error are very, very common. And therefore, there should be methods to verify that correct entry have been done for all the data before the release of blood components. There should be hard ABO logic tables should be encoded in the system and to prevent nonsense entries or mismatches. The computer crossmatch actually offers various advantages. It increases the time efficiency, it reduces the volume of samples actually required for crossmatch and which needed to be crossmatched. It offers greater flexibility of staff among staff and better management of inventory, and it has the potential to develop a centralized transfusion service. With this, I would like to bring to the last slide of the presentation, which is the limitations of crossmatch testing. This is to tell that even if we get a compatible crossmatch, acceptable crossmatch, it does not guarantee that the transfusion outcome will be good or the survival of the red cells will be optimal. Adverse transfusion reactions can still occur. Mainly viral transmission can occur, allergic affinity, no one can prevent that, even if we get a compatible crossmatch. Also, the increment we usually expect 1 gram of increment by transfusion of 1 unit of ABO and AHE compatible unit, HE crossmatch unit. But that is not always necessary because there are many patient factors. If the patient is bleeding, if there is any red cell sequestration event, then the increment of hemoglobin won't be much. And also there are two things, like if the antibody, antibody can be missed during a cross match if the expression of red cells on the donor antigen is very weak. And there is always a possibility of delayed hemolytic transfusion reaction because in this case, we have a completely undetectable antibody which is not detected during the antibody screening, neither in the cross match. It is just after the transfusion of an antigen positive donor unit, the booster effect takes place and the antibody titers drastically increase and patient can get hemolysis. Also, aluminization to donor antigen is inevitable, and therefore that increases the chances of having an incompatible crossmatch at a later stage. So with this, I would like to conclude my presentation. I would like to thank all of you for your patient listening.